Oh, good night, and welcome to Morning Gospel Fuel with Mr. G. What a day, what a day, what a day. It is Tuesday, is what it is. The end of Tuesday, February 9th, the feast day of Saint Teilo, a 6th century monk, bishop, and founder of monasteries and churches. And he is the patron saint of Cardiff, which is the capital city and a county in Wales. Today's gospel is from Mark chapter 7, verses 1 through 13. Let's begin in the name of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen. Now when the Pharisees with some scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around him, they observed that some of his disciples ate their meals with unclean, that is, unwashed hands. For the Pharisees, and in fact all Jews, did not eat without carefully washing their hands, keeping the tradition of the elders. And on coming from the marketplace, they do not eat without purifying themselves. And there are many other things that they have traditionally observed, the purification of cups and jugs and kettles and beds. So the Pharisees and scribes questioned him, "Why do your disciples not follow the tradition of the elders, but instead eat a meal with unclean hands?" He responded, "Well did Isaiah prophesy about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'This people honors me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines human precepts.' You disregard God's commandment, but cling to human tradition." He went on to say, "How well you have set aside the commandment of God in order to uphold your tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother, and whoever curses father or mother shall die.' Yet you say, if a person says to father or mother, 'Any support you might have had for me is Corban,' meaning dedicated to God, if you allow him to do nothing more for his father or mother. You nullify the word of God in favor of your tradition that you have handed on, and you do many such things." Okay, so Jesus is talking here about to the elders and just how they are so fixated towards tradition, and calling them hypocrites. As these elders, which the elders are trying to do, I guess, what they think or believe is best. But Jesus is saying there's nothing of higher importance than to do God's will and honor God through how you live your life, even if it means breaking tradition of whatever it might be. And if you go back in history of ancient civilization, and even today now, there are some traditions that are extremely bad, like as far as hurting people. Like there's traditions that go with different gangs and stuff like that of what you need to do with initiation. So tradition isn't like here. It doesn't mean tradition is always good and bad. It's just saying, and he's also not saying, Jesus isn't saying that all traditions are bad. Like a family tradition that you do every Christmas, or a family tradition, or a tradition you do with your friends every year from high school, just to keep in touch, or whatever it might be. Like there's both good traditions and there's bad traditions, but neither good nor bad tradition should ever surpass our devotion to God. That is the highest priority of any of us, as our souls depend on it, and our eternal lives depend on it. So that's really what Jesus is trying to reveal to us today. Even whenever it comes to honoring your mother and your father, and doing everything that is fully for the purpose of God and in favor of Him. So we can take a challenge to one of those two. Either what traditions do you have, and are they virtuous traditions? And maybe you might want to mix it up a little bit. Change is good, so that might be a challenge. But then also, or as part of just making sure that your traditions are centered around God, maybe start a new tradition of like praying, having a holy 10 or something with your family at night before you go to bed, or after dinner, or praying a rosary, or listening to Christian music on the way to church, whatever it is. You could start any new tradition at any point where we can kind of really depend on, or we can decide that. So that might be the challenge is try to start a new tradition that's centered around piety and growing in your faith, and making faith more of a forefront of your life, especially as Lent is coming up, or as it says, honoring your parents. You can make sure you do whatever you need to honor your parents and respect your parents, as long as it's all good and virtuous in that. And at the very least, if praying for your parents, no matter what. So prayers don't go unheard, even though it's easy to think of that sometimes. I think that's enough. I'm just tired and I'm rambling, so I'm just going to call it a day. Hope we got a challenge out of that. God bless. Keep it real. And I'll see you tomorrow. In the Father, Son, and Spirit. Amen.